Your teeth don't hurt. Your back doesn't ache. You haven't had a cold in years. For most of human history, that wasn't unusual. That was just Tuesday. We spend billions every year on supplements, gym memberships, sleep trackers, and therapy. And yet chronic disease, back pain, anxiety, and metabolic disorders are more common now than at almost any point in the last 300,000 years of human existence. Something went wrong. And the answer is older than you think. You are the product of a body built for a world that no longer exists. Your skeleton, your gut, your circadian rhythm, your immune system, all of it was shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of a very specific way of living. Then, roughly 10,000 years ago, everything changed, and your body never fully caught up. So let's go back. Let's reconstruct what health actually looked like before agriculture, before cities, before chairs. Bioarchaeologist Spencer Larsen spent decades studying human skeletal remains from the transition between hunter-gatherer life and early farming societies. What he found was not what most people expect. When populations shifted from foraging to farming, the skeletons got worse. Tooth decay skyrocketed. Bone density dropped. Signs of infection multiplied. Childhood growth was stunted. The bodies of early farmers were, in measurable physical terms, less healthy than the bodies of the people who came before them. This is not a fringe finding. It has been confirmed across dozens of archaeological sites on multiple continents. The bones don't lie. So what were your ancestors actually doing that kept them so physically robust? Start with movement, not exercise. Movement. There is a critical difference. Your ancestors didn't have a workout routine. They had a life that required constant, varied, low-intensity physical activity woven into every waking hour. Walking 6 to 12 miles a day was the baseline, not the achievement. Climbing, carrying, squatting, crouching, lifting, these weren't fitness goals. They were just how you got food and stayed alive. Anthropologist Herman Pontzer studied the Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer populations on Earth, and published his findings in a landmark 2012 study. What he discovered challenged everything we assumed about physical activity. The Hadza moved constantly throughout the day. Their bodies burned roughly the same total calories as a typical sedentary Western adult, but the composition of that energy use was completely different. It was distributed across the whole day in small, continuous bursts rather than crammed into a 45-minute session between long stretches of sitting. Your body was designed for Hadza-style movement. Sitting for 8 hours and then running on a treadmill for 30 minutes is not what your musculoskeletal system was built to handle. The back pain epidemic, which affects roughly half of all working adults in the developed world, is, at its root, a posture and movement mismatch between the body you inherited and the life you're living. Now think about food. Your ancestors ate nothing that came in a package. Nothing that had been processed, refined, or engineered to be more palatable than anything found in nature. They ate whole animals, organs included. They ate tubers, berries, seeds, nuts, and leaves. They ate seasonally. They ate intermittently. Anthropologist James Suzman, who spent years living among the hoansi San people of the Kalahari, documented something remarkable. These hunter-gatherers worked an average of 15 hours per week to meet their food needs. The rest of their time was spent resting, socializing, and making things. They were not scrambling desperately for every calorie. They were eating a diet of extraordinary variety. Studies of modern forager diets typically identify between 60 and over 200 distinct plant species consumed across a year. Compare that to the modern Western diet, which draws roughly 60% of its calories from just 3 crops: wheat, corn, and rice. Your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of trillions of bacteria that regulate your immunity, mood, inflammation, and metabolism, was built for that variety. It was built for fiber from dozens of plant sources, for fermented foods, for seasonal fluctuations. The modern gut is, in many measurable ways, impoverished compared to the guts of people living closer to ancestral dietary patterns. A 2019 study published in Science compared the microbiomes of people from industrialized nations against those of the Hadza. The Hadza had roughly twice the microbial diversity. They harbored bacterial species that had gone functionally extinct in Western populations, species that appear to play important roles in regulating inflammation and metabolic function. Twice the diversity. Gone. Now consider stress. Specifically, the kind of stress your body was designed to handle versus the kind it was not. Your stress response, the flood of cortisol and adrenaline that sharpens your focus and mobilizes your energy, evolved to deal with acute threats. A predator, a rival, a sudden environmental danger. The response fires, peaks, and resolves. Your body recovers. You move on. What your stress system was not built for is the thing that defines modern life: low-grade, chronic, unresolvable psychological pressure. The background hum of financial anxiety, deadline pressure, social comparison, email. The system that was supposed to fire and resolve instead stays partially activated hour after hour, day after day for years. And chronic stress is now understood to be a driver of cardiovascular disease, immune suppression, metabolic dysfunction, depression, and accelerated cellular aging. Your ancestors experienced acute stress. Regularly, probably, but they also had something that most people today do not: genuine rest. Not sleep, rest. Time when nothing was being demanded of them. Time spent in low-stakes social interaction around a fire. Time for the nervous system to fully downregulate. Primatologist and neurobiologist Robert Sapolsky has spent 40 years studying the biology of stress, most famously through his research on wild baboons in Kenya. What he found was that the baboons who suffered most were not the ones at the bottom of the hierarchy. They were the ones in the middle, exposed to unpredictable status threats without the security of clear position. The chronic uncertainty was more physiologically damaging than the hardship itself. Sound familiar? And then there is sleep. Before artificial light, your ancestors slept in two phases: a first sleep and a second sleep, separated by an hour or two of calm wakefulness in the middle of the night. Historian Roger Ekirch documented this pattern extensively in pre-industrial European sources. People would wake, tend a fire, speak quietly, sometimes visit neighbors, then sleep again until dawn. The sleep was also timed differently, rising later, aligned with the natural light cycle rather than a fixed alarm. Modern sleep science increasingly confirms that the rigid, single-block alarm-interrupted sleep schedule that most people follow is misaligned with human biology in ways that affect mood, cognition, immunity, and cardiovascular health. You are also, by default, outside. Exposed to natural light in the morning, which sets your circadian clock. Exposed to dirt and soil microbes, which train your immune system. Exposed to moderate temperature variation, which appears to support metabolic health. The sterile, climate-controlled, artificially lit indoor environment that most people spend 90% of their lives in is a genuinely novel experiment. The results, measured in rates of autoimmune disease, allergies, vitamin D deficiency, and sleep disorders, are not entirely encouraging. So let's reconstruct a specific day. You wake without an alarm. Your body has had enough sleep, somewhere between 7 and 9 hours, shaped by darkness and firelight. You move through the morning. You walk. You carry things. You engage in practical tasks that require your full attention and use your whole body. You eat when you find food, and what you find is real, dense with nutrients, varied, unprocessed. In the afternoon, you rest, genuinely rest. You sit with people you know well. You talk. You laugh. Your nervous system fully deactivates. In the evening, light dims. Your melatonin rises naturally. You sleep. That is not a fantasy. That is the life your body was built for. And it produced people with dense bones, clean arteries, functional backs, diverse gut microbiomes, and, as the skeletal record confirms, remarkably few of the chronic diseases that define modern life. Here is the part that is both uncomfortable and genuinely useful. Most of the interventions that modern medicine recommends for chronic disease are just approximations of what ancestral life provided automatically. Move more throughout the day, not just at the gym. Eat more variety, more fiber, more whole food. Sleep in alignment with light. Spend time outdoors. Reduce chronic psychological pressure. Connect with other people in low stakes, unhurried ways. These aren't wellness trends, they are corrections. They are your body trying to get back to the conditions it was shaped to inhabit. You wake up and reach for your phone. You sit for hours. You eat food engineered to be more rewarding than anything that exists in nature. You sleep less than you need at the wrong time under artificial light. For 99% of human history, none of that was possible. And for most of that time, your body worked better than it does now. The strange truth is that the healthiest version of you is not a future you. It is, in almost every biological sense, a very old one.